Your brain doesn't like to work hard. And so any single time a task is a challenge, you are going to find yourself procrastinating on it, unless there's some deep motivation as to why you should want to do it. So today we're going to discuss 3 steps to help you overcome procrastination and deal with it so it is no longer a challenge for you in the future. Hey there, I'm Esther Rappaport, and I help ADHD entrepreneurs optimize their brain so running their business is a whole lot easier. Before we get into these 3 steps, we need a little bit of understanding of what's happening in your brain. We tend to think of thinking as one big thing, but thinking is actually made up of 28 thinking skills called cognitive functions. Now, with 28 of them, naturally, we all have stronger ones and weaker ones. But those weaker ones are making it a challenge for us to do what we want to do. Those weaker ones are causing us to procrastinate because those weaker ones are making these tasks a challenge. And then our brain doesn't want to do a challenge and our brain procrastinates on it. Okay, so with that understanding, you want to do these 3 steps. Number one, any single time you find yourself procrastinating on a task, take the time to figure out what part of this task do I not like? Okay, I need to record a podcast. What part of recording a podcast do I not like? Well, if you think about recording a podcast, there's like a million steps to recording a podcast. You have to think of the topic, you have to think of the title, you have to think of the points that you're going to write about. You have to actually record it, you have to edit it, you have to schedule it. All the million bazillion steps to recording a podcast. So, what part of recording a podcast do you not like? Okay. Then, step number 2, you want to see this part of this task that you don't like. It's how is it related, or which cognitive function, which thinking skill is it related to? Because in order to do that part of the task, you need to use specific thinking skills. So if you haven't taken the cognitive function assessment, you'll want to do so right now. It's linked right below. It's a free assessment. It'll take you just a couple of minutes. And you will see very clearly which one of your thinking skills are stronger and which one of your thinking skills are weaker. And you're now going to have a list of the 28 thinking skills. And once you've identified the part of the task that you really don't like, you can compare it to the list and see like, hey, I think this is coming from clear perception, or I think this is coming from working memory, or whatever one of the thinking skills you think it's related to. Which brings us to step number 3, is instead of forcing yourself to do the task that you really don't like to do, work on the thinking skill related to the task. Work on the thinking skill that is making it a challenge for you. Because as soon as that thinking skill is strong, doing this task will be a whole lot easier. Let me give you a personal example. I dreaded email marketing for the longest time. I pushed it off and didn't start in my business for ages. And then even once I did, every morning when I would have to write emails, it was like, oh, I just don't want to do it. And I would procrastinate on it. And yes, I would try to find ways to make it fun and ways to be able to do this because sometimes we just need to get the task done right now. And so we figure out ways to force ourselves to be able to do it. And so, yeah, I did that. But eventually it was like, this is not okay. There's no reason why every single time that I know I need to do email marketing, I don't want to get out of bed in the morning because I am just procrastinating on it. So I was like, okay, what part of email marketing do I not like? And I thought about it. It wasn't the topics, it wasn't not knowing what to say. What it really was being able to express it in a clear and cohesive manner. So that way, what I'm saying in my brain, people understand and can read it simply and easily. And so, went to step number 2 and compared it to the cognitive functions. Which cognitive function is that? Plainly and simply, it's called giving a thoughtful response, being able to express yourself in a clear and cohesive manner. And so, what I did was, for the next couple of weeks, I worked on improving that thinking skill. Every single time I spoke to someone, every single time I wrote an email to anyone, any single time I did anything, I tried to say it in the most clear and cohesive manner as possible. All of a sudden, magically, email marketing became easier, literally easier. And I stopped procrastinating on it as much. But the story doesn't end there. A little bit later on, a few months later, I went on to work on the thinking skill of labeling. I just got very interested in the thinking skill of labeling, and I decided to work on it for myself. I was pretty good at it, this thinking skill of giving labels its correct label and calling items by its correct label, but I was really taking it to the next level on an abstract level, on a very advanced communication level, and really worked on improving the thinking skill of labeling. And because labeling has a lot to do with communication and how you're talking to people and how you're communicating with people, it was also showing up in my emails. All of a sudden, my emails were now labeled better, were now even clearer, even more precise and concise. And guess what happened? Not only did my emails become better, but I actually started to enjoy email marketing. Could you believe it? Going from not wanting to wake up in the morning, not wanting to get out of bed in the morning because email marketing was such a dread, to actually loving it and enjoying it because I improved the thinking skills related to that task. Now, this was not an overnight thing, and it's not going to be an overnight thing for you. Like I've mentioned earlier, sometimes the task needs to happen now, and you have to find fun ways to force yourself to be able to do it now. I've got a whole bunch of videos on being able to get things done even when you don't really want to do that. So you could go just scroll through YouTube on the channel. There's a bunch of them on it. But if you want to actually solve the problem, so you don't have to do those things and you don't have to force yourself every single time to make it fun, to find a way for you to be able to do it and to actually enjoy the task, solve the core issue, solve the thinking skill related to it. Okay. Now, if you really want to go deep on this and you want to solve the thinking skills related to the things that are making a challenge for you, you may just be the perfect candidate for optimizing your brain, our 90-day cohort that works on optimizing your brain. So that way, things like procrastination are a thing of the past. The link to that is right below. You can submit your application and we can see if you're a good fit. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next video.